When the Pope goes on an international trip, his purpose is essentially pastoral. But he knows he's going to a particular place and addressing a particular people, and so he shapes his message to the social and economic and cultural and political context, and that was certainly the case on his trip to Mexico and Cuba. When the Pope got off the plane in Mexico, he announced that he was coming as a pilgrim of faith, hope, and charity. In doing that, he laid out his agenda for the whole trip, and he was addressing all of Latin America. And he tied in these three theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity with three contemporary concerns for the entire region. He talked about the need for religious freedom. He talked about Christian hope as an inspiration for working toward social progress. And he talked about aid to the needy as an expression of charity. Now, these three themes ran through his public statements on the whole trip, but they resonated differently in the two countries. Mexico is a country with the kind of social problems that afflict countries all over the region and all over the developing world, including vast inequalities of wealth and government corruption. It's also suffering from a wave of violence, most of it drug-related, that's killed an estimated 50,000 people over the last 5 years. In an outdoor mass he celebrated in Mexico, Pope Benedict made it clear that solving social problems like these depends ultimately on an act of faith, a change of heart, a conversion to Christ. Without that kind of commitment, no secular worldly solutions are going to work. So part of Pope Benedict's message to Mexico in particular is that the country should continue to eliminate the aggressively secular, anti-clerical laws that were on its books for most of the 20th century. Now in Cuba, Pope Benedict's message was essentially the same, but it had very different implications. He certainly talked about the need for religious freedom, but though given the state control of the media there, his words were probably lost on most ordinary Cubans. He seemed to be staking the most on the mere image of his presence, celebrating Mass in Santiago de Cuba and in Havana, visiting the National Shrine of the Virgin of Charity of El Cobre. The Pope also held cordial meetings with the former head of the regime, Fidel Castro, and the current head, Fidel's brother, Raul. Now, some human rights activists are worried that the regime manipulated this visit into one big photo op, giving legitimacy to a communist state that allows no freedom of speech or political organization and very little freedom of religion. The Pope refused requests for even a brief meeting with political dissidents, even the Catholic human rights group, the Ladies in White, several of whom were arrested during his visit. But even before he arrived in Cuba, Pope Benedict told such critics that while the Church is on the side of freedom, they need to be patient with a long process of dialogue that the Church is conducting with the regime in Cuba. By Benedict's logic, the first step, after half a century of communism and decades of official atheism, is to re-establish the Church in Cuba. That will give Cubans someplace else to look other than the state and the Communist Party, not only as a source of moral guidance, but as a source of charitable assistance. And that, ideally, will open up a larger and larger space in which other kinds of freedom, including economic freedom and political freedom, can flourish.